Hi and welcome to this week's Life Lessons teaching. It's great to be back with you all. Now, do you want to experience greater emotional balance, wellness, inner peace and flow in your life? Well, we believe that honouring your spiritual nature and nurturing your spirituality are essential ingredients in this process. And in this teaching, we'll be explaining why. Okay, David, so let's begin with some definitions. When we say spirituality, what are we talking about?
Well, I think we start off on the most important point because this is where the most confusion comes in when I'm working with clients. When we're talking about spirituality, we are not talking about the supernatural. We are not talking about religions. We're not talking about occults. We're not talking about anything like that. We're talking about something that's very natural and part of who you are. That's why I prefer to use the Chinese word of Shen, because that defines we're talking about something that's very much in your grasp. That's something that's part of you.
And so I guess from a Daoist perspective, I know in some of our other videos we've talked about this idea of Shen, and that it's something that we are born with, our Shen spiritual nature we're born with, we'll die with. It's like an infinite ingrained part of us.
It's as important as us as our breath, as everything around us. And what kind of shows this, if I go back to, we've done a couple of videos showing this, what people call yin yang. I call Tai Chi, the great ultimate. And this kind of describes what we're talking about. So if you remember back to those videos, we're talking about the oneness, and this sign can define you. The oneness of you, who you are, what are you made of? And you're made of yin and yang. So what's yin and what's yang? So yang is your physical body, your cells, the things you can see, touch, the things, the colour of your hair, your eyes, your thinking, your mind, of this existence, who you are in this existence. So what's the yin? And the yin is the Shen. The things you can't see, the things you can't hold on to. A great example of this I often use with my clients. If you think about someone you really love, a child, someone that's really close to you, and do this now with me, and just with your eyes open or closed, think about that person. And the first thing that comes into your mind is the way they look. Maybe the colour of their hair, how tall they are, colour of their eyes, perhaps, the sound of their voice. Lots of physical things. But just take a moment now and take a breath and just go deeper. And see if you can find something else about them. This is what I would call Shen. And this is what makes them unique, isn't it? It's not the way they look or the clothes that they wear or the sound of their voice. There's something about them that you can't bottle, can't share, they can't give to you, you can't give to them, because you're the same. There is something unique about you, and that's what I would call Shen, and I would translate into English as your spirituality, the spirit of who you are, the natural spirit of who you are. This is very important. This is something that someone else cannot give to you or take away from you. Can I repeat that, please? This is something that someone cannot give to you or take away from you. This is something you have deep within you. This defines who you are. This is the thing that takes you through all the twists and turns of life, the physical problems, the physical challenges. It's the Shen that stays with you.
And so, I really like that idea, and it's so very powerful, this idea that our spiritual nature, our spiritual essence is always with us. It's never reduced or diminished by our life experiences or what happens to us. But we can ignore it, or we can disconnect from it, or we can choose to honor it, be more in our Shen, live a more Shen-led life. And we've done videos on this, and I will put links to those videos. But I guess the key question for me, David, is how is this Shen, our spiritual nature, honoring our spirituality? Why is that so important to our emotional health and our emotional wellness?
Well, this is something that surprised me because I've been doing this job for a long time, working with my clients on their emotional health and well-being. And what I found when we developed the golden thread, so remember the golden thread, you started the emotional feeling. You don't give it a name like anxiety, depression. You change it to a red or green light. Is it a negative or a positive feeling? Is it a good feeling or not so good feeling? And then ask yourself, why am I choosing to create that feeling? And that puts you on the golden thread. Why? And when you practice that, you come down to what we call the 3 lies, or a variant of these 3 lies. Number 1, I'm not good enough. Number 2, I can't cope or I can't manage, something like that. Number 3, I'm unlovable or I'm unworthy or something like that. When you start from those immensely intense, uncomfortable, life-changing emotions and you follow it down to the belief that created those emotions, excuse me, you will find one of those 3 lies. And this is the first sign that you are not honoring or listening to your Shen, because all of those 3 lies are creating a spiritual separation, a separation from your Shen. None of those lies even make sense as a statement. Can I just give the first one? I'm not good enough. Write that down. After this, listening to this, write that down and try and make that make sense. I am not good enough. Who is the I? Who's judging the I? How can, if you think you're not good enough, how can you judge yourself to be not good enough? You're not good enough to judge yourself. It's a nonsense statement. But what it is, it's an extremely powerful statement. That's why I use this word lie. You're lying to yourself. And that lie creates a separation.
So when we have in our belief system, in our core beliefs, one of those 3 lies, I'm not good enough, I can't cope or I can't manage, or I'm unlovable, they are in essence, you're saying it creates a spiritual separation. But what they're doing, I suppose, is you're denying the truth of who you are. You're denying your divine nature. And then in that denying, in that I guess, unconscious, subconscious or conscious denial, however we want to phrase it, but it's still a denial, that then creates what I know, this is a lovely teaching your Daoist masters gave you, creates a Shen disturbance.
Absolutely. It disturbs your Shen because now, instead of being in balance, now you're out of balance. Now the mind is in control. We give it a name. We call it the inner child. Some people call it the ego. Some people call it the emotions. But now the mind starts to take over. The mind gets more powerful. Now the mind starts telling you. And so if you go back to that example, I'm not good enough, this is how nonsensical it is. It's actually your mind telling you. See, it doesn't even make sense. Isn't your mind part of you? No, your mind believes it's external to you, telling you
Judging
you're not
you.
good enough, judging you.
Yeah.
Your mind is judging you. I often say to my clients, well, what's it judging? Your nose, your big toe, your hair? What's it judging you? It can only be judging itself, because if you believe in the oneness, surely your mind is part of you. So if it says it's not good enough, it's saying itself it's not good enough. This is the part of the confusion. This is where the work, when I'm working with my clients, this is, we call it, the carousel of despair, going round and around, round and around. It doesn't make sense, but still holding on to it. Or the other one, the maze of confusion. That's why you lay layers on. Just that statement, if you ever said that statement to yourself, I'm not good enough, your mind is in control of you. And that doesn't make sense because, as Alex says, you're disturbing your Shen. You're cutting yourself off from that awesomeness that you are. I believe you're awesome because I believe everyone's awesome. We all have a Shen spirit. It's whether we connect to it or we do not connect to it.
And so when we disconnect, when we deny, when we lie, the knock-on effect then goes back up the ladder, if you like. That then affects our thoughts, our thinking, our self-talk, which then impacts and creates those red light emotions. And that then becomes the connection, the direct line, the signal that something, the emotions, your emotional health, your emotional balance is directly related to that deeper Shen connection or disconnection.
Yes, and also what it does, how you've explained it perfectly, but it also provides a distraction. So now instead of looking at the root things, which I want to look at in my clients, you will talk endlessly about your emotions, your anxiety, your depression, your panic, this, my emotion, and you start to work on the surface of talking and discussing and thinking about your emotions rather than the thoughts and the beliefs and the balance that creates those. So you're looking at the evidence of what's going wrong instead of looking at the evidence of what's created it. And this is why we're giving you these teachings. This is why we do this video. This is a paradigm shift. Make no mistake. This is a different way of looking at your emotional health and well-being. This is looking at your beliefs. What do you believe? Why do you believe it? How many times have I said that? And still clients who come on to me, they don't grasp it. What do you believe? Why do you believe it? If you believe you're not good enough, where is the evidence? Not the evidence and the results of thinking you're not good enough. Where's the evidence that proves you're not good enough? You did not come out of the womb believing you wasn't good enough, as you wouldn't have made that journey. So where did you learn that? Who did you learn that from? And then when you do that work, you can do that now after this video, you will find out it's not even your belief system. It's something you've inherited of someone else, a parent, a teacher, a sibling or something, a family member. It's not even your belief. It's what you think they believe about you.
And I think what's really interesting here, David, is this self-inquiry work that you're talking about, this deeper self-inquiry work, rather than just focusing on the surface level emotions, painful, challenging, difficult emotions. That is a spiritual practice.
Absolutely.
Because we are looking at correcting what is causing the imbalance of energy between the Shen and the mind. So it needs to be brought back into a balance. But that, in doing so, we are then honoring our spiritual nature. We're respecting our spiritual nature. We are putting in the time to nurture and respect ourselves to bring ourselves back into a balance.
Okay, so a lot of my clients will go where Alex is. They'll do a little bit of work off the video, and then we do the work, and we can be a lot more direct and candid to find the problems. And they ask me this: how do I know the difference? How do I know the difference from my inner child's voice talking at me and my Shen voice? And this is the difference. The inner child will always talk at you, criticizing, comparing, being judgmental. The inner child is the 3 a.m. mind. Excuse me. The inner child is the 3 a.m. mind, talking at you, telling you. When has the 3 a.m. mind ever woken you up at 3 o'clock in the morning and said, aren't you doing well? Why, you look great. Tomorrow's going to be a great day. It's never done that. And that's how you know it's that mind talking at you, trying to get the imbalance. The Shen voice comes deep from within you. You may have a word like inspiration, intuition, gut feeling, inner knowing, but you all know that voice. But that voice is a little bit quieter. You have to be more tuned in to that vibration of that voice. And this is why it's a spiritual matter. This is why emotions are a spiritual matter. Because what you've done is you're too tuned in to this loud voice. And that's why I like the term, not great, not perfect, the analogy of the inner child. Because if you have physical children, you know the child comes to you in the least time, starts saying, Mommy, Daddy, what do you... And it's like the child, that part of your mind knows when it's the time when you're more susceptible to give into it. To say, oh, okay. Instead of saying, what do you mean I'm not good enough? What the hell are you talking about? What does this mean? Explain that to me. Let's challenge it. Let's do the golden thread. Why do you believe I'm not good enough? Why do you believe I can't cope? When all of my life, the only thing you've ever done is cope. You wouldn't be listening to me now if you couldn't cope. Look at all the things you've come through childhood, through your career, through relationships. Guess what? I know. I'm a fortune teller. You've coped. Because that's what you've done. And then to say, I'm unworthy, well, come on. That, I almost have to smile when somebody says, well, the truth is I'm unlovable. Hey, what's the truth in that? Even the statement doesn't make sense.
But when we do that, when we buy into those lies, we are allowing our fearful inner child or ego mind to dominate our thinking. We are going along with what it's telling us without question, without doing the deeper work.
Without doing the golden thread. And challenging it.
And challenge it, because I think what's really interesting here, well, the first thing to say is when we correct the lies, when we honor our spiritual nature, once we rebalance our energy so that we are in a balance between our human energy of our mind and our Shen energy of our spiritual nature, then we experience positive green light feelings. So in the same way as when we're out of balance, the knock-on effect of that is the red light emotion. So anger, anxiety, resentment, depression, panic, guilt, regret, all those horrible, yucky red light emotions. When we correct our energy, when we beautifully rebalance our energy, when we honor our Shen nature, then the knock-on effect is the green light emotions. Yes. So inner peace, calm, contentment, bliss, love, satisfaction, confidence, all those positive qualities. And that, as you said, connecting to our Shen voice, and we've done some teachings on that, how to do that, how to know when your Shen voice is speaking rather than your inner child or your ego. So I'll put links to those for you. But when we connect to that it's almost like it's like plugging into the right socket, isn't it? We just know, we get that feeling, these green light feelings, all of a sudden it's like wave over us. We know we've found, it's like returning home somehow.
And that's why emotions are one of the most important things, not perhaps even one of the most important things, the most important things, because they give you a direct indication whether you're in balance or out of balance. That's why I call them red and green lights. When you're getting a red light, I would stop calling it anxiety, depression, panic. I would stop using those words because they only confuse you and keep you trapped in the emotion. Use red light, and it's like driving your car. Imagine driving your car after you listen to this and the red light comes on the dashboard, starts flashing and buzzing and making a sound, and you pull into the garage and the mechanic says, don't worry, I can fix that for you in 2 seconds. What I'm going to do is unscrew the bulb. There you are. No red light now. Carry on driving. You wouldn't budge. You think he'd gone mad. He hasn't lifted up the bonnet and looked at the problem. The red light is doing you a favour. It's screaming at you. You are unbalanced here. Now your job, your responsibility, your self-responsibility is to do the golden thread. Why am I unbalanced? What am I thinking? What's the evidence for that thought? And as we said, when you go why, it'll come down to one of the 3 lies. or a variant of those 3 lies, and then ask yourself, then you do the golden thread again. Why do I believe this? A lot of my clients write to me and say, I've got the lies, David. I know the lie. The lie is I can't cope. Okay? Now you do the golden thread again. Why? When the evidence is you've always coped, why do you choose to believe you can't cope? And that will take you down, normally into your childhood, normally to an incident that when you were a child, you didn't learn that life lesson. That's why we call them life lessons, where you didn't understand or know about your Shen, and you went with what your parents said, what the teacher said, what your siblings said, what somebody else said, because they were in authority to you, so you believed what they said is the truth, when it's not the truth. Not everything your parents said is the truth for you. Well, I'm not disrespecting your parent. I'm saying they're human. So you've already cherry-picked some of the things your parents have said and rejected some things. And I'm saying these 3 lies need to be rejected, because this is why it's a spiritual matter. You're disrupting your Shen energy. You're not being the wholeness, the fullness of who you are.
And I think it makes me smile because I know some of the comments we have on our YouTube videos are along the lines of, why is a Taoist monk just spending all this time talking about emotional health and talking about our belief system? How is this spiritual? But this is the essence of it, because our beliefs and the resulting emotions, the surface level emotions that arise from our core beliefs, and how we manage our mind and our thinking and our thoughts and our self-talk, they are the things that will either connect or disconnect us from our spiritual nature.
And from the Tao.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
So let me answer that question for those who've asked that question. Why a Taoist monk is concentrating on emotions? Because when I was ordained in the Wudong Mountains, my ordained mission was to make Taoism accessible. I'm not trying to convert you to Taoism. I'm not trying to preach Taoism. I'm trying to show you the teachings of the Tao to live naturally, to live in balance, to live harmoniously, to live to your true potential, to be able to flow and to flourish. In my opinion, for every human being means you have to bring the emotionals into your balance. And that to me is the greatest teaching of the Tao. The Tao is about flourishing. I want you to flourish in your life. I want you to reach your potential. Whatever that potential is, doesn't bother me. I want you to reach your potential. And that's why I concentrate on emotions, because I think Taoism really excels in understanding this idea of balance, harmony. So we could talk about the Tao in many situations, but it comes down to balancing your yin and your yang, your human self with your Shen. And then that creates Wu Wei, living in your flow, effortless effort, living in that sweet spot. Have you been in that sweet spot? When something you think is going to be difficult, and then after you do it, you go, wow, I just walked through that. That's how I want you to walk through life. So we will have difficulties, and I want you to be balanced, to be able to, I'm back onto water now, aren't I?
Yeah.
To be able to flow down that water, because that's what life's about. And that's the teachings of the Tao.
And that's really the life purpose or the life lesson, because if we are born in balance, I guess,
yes.
That beautiful balance between our human energy and our spiritual energy, the yin and the yang, and our life challenges to navigate through the challenges of life, the learning experiences of life in Wu Wei and in flow, but all the while honouring our spirituality as part of that human experience.
Well, I've been lucky enough through my career as a Chinese medicine doctor to be at about 35 births, not all my children. But for a long time, I used to work with some mothers who were having difficulty in giving birth. And working with them, I was honoured, and they asked me to be at the birth and to walk them through and to teach them how to breathe, how to do all this type of stuff. Now, every birth that I've been had, and for those of you who've been at a birth, you're not telling me there isn't something spiritual going on in that delivery room. I'm sorry, they wasn't even my children, and it made me cry. There's something that moves when that child comes down the birth canal and comes into the world, and you put it onto the mother's breast. If that's not magical, but that's natural. That's not supernatural, that's natural. And that journey, as Alex has just said, that's the journey that you've been on. You are that child. And when I look in the camera and say, you are awesome, that's what I'm talking about. You are divine. You are that child that come down the birth canal. You are that child that forced yourself into life. This is your life. This is your magical life. And what I'm trying to help you to do is to be into balance, to balance yourself so you flourish and you reach your true potential, because there is, oh my goodness, there is no one in the universe like you. No one in the cosmos. No one. You are made of cosmic stardust. What more do you want? And then you tell yourself you're not good enough. You know, this is where you've got to come back into balance and clear your thinking and connect, as Alex says, to that Shen part of you.
So a lot of people, David, would listen to what you're saying there and say, okay, I get the idea that my beliefs are really important because they create my thoughts and my self-talk, which then in turn affects my actions and choices and creates my emotions, red light emotions or green light emotions. So if my beliefs are at the kind of the core essence of everything in this equation, do my beliefs always have to be spiritually motivated or spiritually guided? Do I have to be like massively spiritually aware or worldly in order to have good emotional balance and good emotional health? Do I have to do loads of practices, like loads of meditation, eating the right food, sitting quietly with myself, reading lots of books, going on lots of retreats? What do I have to do?
Being balanced.
But how to be in balance?
You're balancing that spiritual energy. So for me, I find a need. It's right for me. I meditate every day, only about 15 minutes or 20 minutes. But that's important for me. For you, that might not be important. I know you like yoga.
Yeah.
That's important for you. And so you're finding the balance that's right for you. You're finding that Wu Wei. Let me go back to my model. See how Wu Wei turns and moves? It's not rigid. It's not formed like a straight line. Everybody is unique. So as Alex says, I am not saying you go and a hermit up a mountain in a cave eating berries. That's not what I'm saying at all. They are no more spiritual than you. I'm saying in your life, in your career, in your family, how do you find that balance between your physical life and your spiritual life, your Shen? And here's why this is such an important teaching. No one can tell you. I can't tell you. I can't tell you what's right for you. If you're my client and you can come to me and when we talk and we can look at where it goes out of balance, and that's normally in your belief system. But once you change and learn that life lesson, then your energy comes back into balance. Remember, no one can give you Shen. No one can take Shen away from you. No one can touch your spirit except you.
I can only share my experience, and I agree with you that different strokes for different folks in terms of what brings you back into balance, and that anyone who says you have to do A, B, C, D and E and you have to do it so many times a day for so many hours in so many different ways and makes it really complicated and prescriptive is being misleading, and it's not authentic, because it's about appropriateness to you. But for me, it's more about what can I do to quieten my inner child down? What can I do to quieten my ego or my racing mind down? And then that allows the connection to automatically be reestablished to my Shen. So for you, I know you like doing quiet meditation for 10 minutes every morning. For me, what helps me quieten my mind down, connect to Shen, is just going out for a walk in nature, being peaceful and quiet. So, because I think a common misunderstanding for a lot of people is they think, as you say, they think they have to earn their spirituality. It's like earning brownie points. If I do enough meditation, or if I do enough crystal work, or if I do enough retreat, or I do enough, then I'm going to earn it. And it's almost like I've got enough points to be highly balanced, highly elevated, highly everything. But again, that's just the ego at play. That's just the ego kind of comparing, measuring stick, all that sort of stuff. And so it's about how to get the mind out of the way, not get rid of the ego, not get rid of the inner child, but bringing it back into a balance.
To bring it back into a balance. So a word I like using is authentic. And for me, being authentic means being in balance. So look at yourself, and only you can judge this for yourself. No one else. I can't tell you what's right or wrong for you. You can, though. If you can quieten that mind, connect to the Shen, listen to that intuition, that inner voice, that inner knowing, that inner knowledge, and balance them up so that you live in your life in a balanced way that is good for you. So if I ask you, why do you do that? You tell me. I don't have to agree with you. You say, I do that because of this, David. I do that because of that. What do you believe? Why do you believe it? So you could say to me like that, but why is a Taoist monk doing this work? I'll tell you. Now you can say, well, that's wrong. You should be back in China. My colleagues wanted me to stay in China, but I knew that wasn't right for me. Although I love China and I absolutely love the Wudong Mountains, that's not right for me, for my life. Now, I'm not saying 5 years' time, 10 years' time, if I'm still alive, I might go back. I don't know. But you have to take responsibility. How many of these videos have I talked about taking responsibility for yourself? What do you believe? Why do you believe it? Give yourself the evidence. So if you're stuck on the 3 lies, do the golden thread. Why do I believe I'm not good enough? Why do I believe I'm unlovable? Where did that come from? Why? When did I first come up with that bright idea? Where did I get that from? And I will almost guarantee you it'll be, it's what I thought somebody else thinks about me. That's not evidence. That's not something to build your life on. That's not a kind of a foundation, a rock for you. And that's the life lesson. You have to change that. You have to look at it. Remember, beliefs are not set in stone. You change your beliefs every day. Look at these core beliefs and change them and bring yourself back into a balance. Often when I'm working with my clients, I think about those old-fashioned scales. And what we're trying to do is bring your life like this. So your life's being in balance like this. Not perfect balance, not rigid, but always moving. And that's why the emotions can be so useful, because when you move out of balance, the red light emotion will flash. Then do the golden thread and find out what's going wrong.
And so we've got a whole playlist of teachings on how to do the golden thread process work, how to understand the self-inquiry process that we teach, which, as we're saying, is essentially the key to unlocking the imbalance, the key to having that natural energetic connection, rebalancing and connection back to the Shen.
So another quick tip though, Alex, is to listen to the Shen and making difference between the Shen and the inner child. As I said, the inner child talks at you, criticizes, compare. The Shen is inspirational. I love that word. In spirit, inspirational. Is also ask yourself, is this the truth? Could I sit in front of David and tell him, and I'm not good enough, and prove it? And here's the final one. This is in the Wu Wei model. We've mentioned this hundreds of times. Would I teach this to my physical child? Would I say what I say to myself to my physical child? If my 6, 7, 8-year-old come up to me and says, Mummy, 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 I had a terrible day at school, would you say, well, that's because you're not good enough? That's because you can't cope. You have to live the rest of your life knowing that you can't cope. Or would you say, well, I can't speak to you today because you're unlovable and you're not worthy? Now, of course you wouldn't, would you? You'd laughing at me and say, that's ridiculous. But you say that to yourself. And that's when I say, stop it. You have to stop it. This is a nonsense. And you know it's a nonsense. And then when you're saying nonsense, that pulls you away from Shen. Mm-hmm. When you lie, that pulls you away from Shen. And that's the teaching.
Yeah, and that's why, David, like this idea of spiritual well-being and emotional well-being is an inside job, because it's your doing. You're making the choice to either lie to yourself and deny yourself, or acknowledge your divine spiritual nature and the balance of who you are, your human energy and your spiritual energy. It's all down to you.
Shall I tell you one thing that constantly, even now at my ripe old age, and I've been doing this for 40 years, still surprises me. When we do the golden thread with a client and we break down all the lies and we go through all the carousels and through all the maze and we find the root, the client will sometimes laugh, because it's almost like revealed a game. And it's ridiculous. This game it's affecting your life. Don't lie to yourself. Don't tell yourself things that you couldn't stand in front of a mirror and say, would I say this to my child? Would I say this to my physical child? Would I treat my physical child the way I treat? Would I put food into my mouth the way I put food into their mouth, the way I put food into my mouth? Would I do these things to my physical child? And a lot of my clients say, well, of course I wouldn't, but that's different, isn't it? No, it's not different. It's not different. You are as important. They are not more important than you. You are important, and you have to honor yourself, and that's the teaching of Shen.
And you know what I absolutely love about this teaching is that really it's very practical. It's very no nonsense. It's not airy-fairy or complicated, because I think for a lot of people are sold the idea of spirituality being, some complicated techniques, processes, it takes years to learn or whatever. And all we're saying is just don't lie to yourself. Don't say anything to yourself in your self-talk or from your beliefs that you wouldn't say to a young child or your own physical child. It's as simple and black and white as that, because I know nowadays, there's a lot of kind of therapists and gurus out there encouraging spirituality of a different form. And a lot of people think, well, if I just do all these complicated techniques and do all these practices, then somehow that's going to solve all my emotional problems. A lot of highly sensitive people and emotionally sensitive and emotionally unbalanced people who desperately need guidance and help buy into this idea that it's a complicated technique, or it's a practice of a certain way, or if you buy this then you'll be able to do that. And really then they end up with the same problems of emotions. Nothing gets solved, and so then they're disillusioned and they think, well, that spirituality malarkey didn't work for me. This concept of spiritual bypassing, almost like they'll do all the spiritual techniques and all the buy into all the ideas, but almost as an avoidance of the actual issues either the emotional issues or the real life situations or people that need to be dealt with and processed authentically and properly. And that's what we're talking about, is this looking at the hard facts, looking at the evidence, looking at your beliefs, looking at the stuff that is within your control right now.
Exactly, Alex. And that takes us back to where we started. It is not supernatural. It is totally natural. Your Shen is totally natural as the colour of your hair, the natural as the colour of your eyes. It's part of who you are. It is an amazing part of you. And what I'm saying is, are you using it in balance in your normal life, in everyday life, everything you do, in your career, in your home life, in your personal life, everything, in your thinking, in your creativity, whatever it is you're doing, are you using this part of you in balance? And that's why it's natural. That's why, to me, emotions are a spiritual matter, because the emotions are the signpost. This is your quick reference. You should be living your life in flow, flourishing, green lights. That's how I want you to live. And when the red light pops up, you go and deal with it straight away. What's that game where you when the red light pops up, you hit it straight away. You go and sort it out. No messing around, because it's that important, and that's your self-responsibility.
Brilliant. Thank you. Well, I hope this teaching has helped you. I hope it's helped you understand why your emotional health is directly and inseparable from your spiritual balance and your spiritual well-being. I hope we've cleared up what we believe spirituality is and why it's down to you. It's an inside job, and it's a very practical thing to work on, and the value of doing that. If you have enjoyed this video, please do comment below and share it with someone else who you think will also benefit. If you'd like to work one-to-one with David on any of the issues we've talked about today, David works by video call with clients all over the world every week, and I will put a link to more information about David's sessions below. And finally, please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We produce new videos every week, and click the bell notifications button when you subscribe so you get a little email notification every time we publish a new video. We look forward to seeing you very soon. Bye-bye.